Hey, what's up everyone? I'm here with a video today on committing Melodyne in Pro Tools the easy way. And this is something that you might want to do. You don't always have to commit Melodyne in Pro Tools. I've done plenty of sessions without ever committing it, but there are times where it's helpful to. A couple things that are good to know about it. So I'm just going to go over a couple of those quick things and then talk about how to easily commit it. So like if you're in a kind of far along state in a session and like maybe you're even close to finalizing the mix and you've already done the Melodyne. If I open the Melodyne plugin, you can see it's already all in here. Hit the tuning things we wanted to hit. It's just the way we like it. And so you might just never need to do anything beyond that. But if, for instance, you decide, oh, you know what, we want to mute this line. If you were to mute this region and hit play, you're still going to hear it play because it's actually in Melodyne. This is no longer what Pro Tools is playing or working with. So additionally, if you were to clip gain this down, you aren't actually hearing that clip gain drop. There's a way to do that in Melodyne, but that's not how you do it at this point. So there's other things like if you wanted to draw a fade and tighten up a fade just to get out before maybe like a mouth sound or something like that. You cannot do that until you've committed Melodyne. So Melodyne is great, but at a certain point we want to say, hey, we're done with it and we want to get out of it. But you don't want to make a new track and then copy your plugins all over and manually do everything. I've done that for way too long, and then finally someone hit me to the fact that there is, if you go over to the Melodyne plugin, you right click it, you see this little sub menu come up where you could bypass or make inactive or whatever, and then there's this option commit up to this insert. And what will happen if you commit up to this insert is Pro Tools will give you a sub menu where you can make a new track, consolidate the clips, and I'm going to tell it to make the previous track inactive after we're done. And then what it does is it just goes through and renders all of the Melodyne without committing the compressor plugin or the EQ plugin, because if you're in a mix state, you might still be wanting to tweak some of that stuff and not commit that. You just want your audio back to being actual audio on the timeline that you can mess with and make edits to and tweak into its perfect audio state. So what's happening is it's gonna go through this render, and then when we get the new track that's going to pop up in just a second, it's going to have the compressor and EQ plugins already on it. It's going to have the volume still set. If we had any pan stuff, that's still set. If we had sends, that stuff is still sending to, if it's sending to the reverb and a delay effect or something, that's still happening. So you've got everything as it was. And since we made the previous track inactive, you're actually not even double processing the compressor and EQ. You've still got them there. If you need to make this active and further do anything, if you needed to, even if you needed to readjust a pitch, you're oh, you know what? Actually, I think that the high note on this phrase was a little flat. You could make this active. You could tweak that. You could once again, you can just select this and then once again say commit up to this insert. It's not showing it to me now because I've got it inactive, but if I were to make it active, you can once again commit up to this insert, and if this is highlighted, it's only going to pop down a new line that you could copy down and into place. So very helpful. I'm going to make this inactive once again, and then now when you're doing all of your final clip gain tweaks and fades and stuff like that, you've got it all with committed Melodyne. It's non-destructive. You've still got your old Melodyne stuff up here, and also if you even needed to go grab a different line, all your previous takes are all still in the other track that we still have access to, but it's out of the way and inactive, and we can now get into finalizing and tweaking all the good stuff on our perfect Melodyne vocal track. So that's how you do it. That's how you do it with like the classic Melodyne like plugin style. There is actually a new Melodyne integration into Pro Tools, so I might as well talk about that for a second. So yeah, like starting in 2023, Pro Tools introduced ARA integration, which now you can get to Melodyne in this submenu, where we'd classically find our time manipulation stuff like Xform and Elastic Audio and all that good stuff. Now you'll notice Melodyne is here as well. So if you were to click that, what it'll do is quickly analyze your track and fly it into Melodyne in Pro Tools. And it's pretty cool so far. I've used it on a few sessions, and I think going forward this is a pretty good way to roll. I mean, one thing right off the bat is the stuff that I was talking about, like your clip gain stuff. If you were to clip gain this down now, if you're in the ARA integrated Melodyne, you actually will hear that clip gain volume move when you play back, even though you're still in Melodyne. And same thing with the fade. That fade, if I hit play, you would hear that fade. So that stuff's really cool. You'll notice that under the waveform, you can see these little markings so that you can tell it's been brought into this new Melodyne. The biggest difference, the two biggest differences are you don't have to transfer it in. It's like lightning fast. There is like a trick for the plugin where you can like hit transfer and then do a similar like commit a track. It'll because it is doing whatever processing thing it does, it'll quickly import a vocal or whatever into Melodyne like that and then spit out a blank track under it, but really it's just quickly flown it into Melodyne. There's other videos out there that detail that, but it's not really a part of that workflow as intended, whereas with this new integration it's pretty quick and seamless. And then the other just big thing is in Pro Tools now, it's in this window that's part of your edit view, like whole conglomerated window space, and you can't break it out into its own window. Whereas like if I were to make this active again, it's in the classic Melodyne sense, it's its own window that you can move around, which can get kind of annoying sometimes if you're trying to follow where you're at on the timeline. And I usually have like, I'm kind of like scrolling along while the track is playing and trying to like keep a visual lock on where I'm at. So like that can be a little confusing, whereas this is kind of nice that it seems to follow along more intuitively when you're working. And another thing that like I would commonly enough need to do in Melodyne is change a phrase. Like if you decide, oh, actually we don't want to use this phrase, if you were to switch to a previous take and move that into your comp in the old school Melodyne, you would have to also find and delete that phrase and then hit transfer and then re-transfer by hitting play. Then that new line would be in Melodyne and you could tweak it and just keep working. But with the ARA integrated method, it's kind of like similar enough. So let's just say that we wanted to take like this phrase and put it there instead, but it hasn't been analyzed by Melodyne. So now you have this menu option to get to Melodyne, and you can say edit, and what it'll do is quickly analyze whatever new little region of audio you've moved in, and it'll put it in, and without messing with any of the other Melodyne stuff you've already done, bring this new stuff in. And I kind of intentionally grabbed a clip where I cut off the front of that phrase so that I'm like getting a visual that yes, this is the new phrase that I'm pulling in, and it's not just showing me the old thing. So that's cool. Also, since we're in a video that's talking about committing Melodyne, it's also like there's probably less of a reason to commit in this ARA integrated style. If you were going to send a track to someone else, like making stems, obviously you'd want to do it in that case. There's reasons, but in this new method, I mean, if you just want to commit a section, it'll give you this option to just render a phrase. So like right now, this is rendered Melodyne, and this is all still its own Melodyne. And of course, you could also just fully commit the Melodyne by going up to none. And if I had actually made Melodyne moves, it would ask me if I want to commit all that Melodyne. It didn't ask because I didn't actually do anything. But yeah, so the new ARA integration is pretty cool. Going forward, I think that's probably how I will proceed. But the classic is still, I mean, for one thing, it's just still in so many projects that were already in progress before this new method came along. And, for various workflow things, people might want to stay with the plugin style for a while, or if you really love the window, that might just be a reason you'd stay with it too. So, now we've got 2 ways to work with Melodyne and ways to commit in both. So yeah, if you've got any questions, leave them in the comments, and that's pretty much it for this video. Take care, everyone.